Welcome to the Sleeper Wire Show, everybody. Professor Chris and Nader here with you this Thursday evening as usual. And we have a special guest on the show, Troy King, co-host of Fantasy Football Confidential and writer at Ball Blast. You can find him on Twitter at @TKingMode. Troy, how's it going, man? Thanks for being on the show.
Nah, man, appreciate you guys having me. Everything's going great here. I'm excited to chop it up with you guys, talk a little bit of football.
Yeah, we're trying to get this done before the Colts game, right?
Oh, you mean the Titans game?
Nader, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm excited to be here. You know, at first, I didn't know if I was going to be here, so it just makes it a lot more pleasurable and memorable that I am here.
Yeah, you had to leave work a little early, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret that. I don't mind that.
Well, we've got a fun show for you guys tonight. We are doing the fan favorite, not top 10. I think it'll be the third or fourth time we've done that this season. And then talking about trade candidates, since trade deadlines are here. It is this weekend, guys, for most leagues. Before we jump into the news, Sleeper Wire has a ton of stuff going on right now. Do you want to win a signed Chris Godwin or Kenny Golladay jersey? Once we reach 100 patrons at patreon.com/sleeperwire, we will randomly pick one person, announce them on the show, and then you'll get your choice of the jersey. Also, check out sleeperwire.com/store. Get yourself a Sleeperwire mug or face mask or hoodie. Ton of stuff there. Let's jump into the news. So, Christian McCaffrey, man, we got him back. It was a great week. And then shoulder injury, and he's going to miss this week. He has a realistic chance to play in week 11 is what the report was after the second opinion. But he is out this week. Hopefully you did not drop Mike Davis in a league like I did last week. My 9-0 now, money league, I had Christian McCaffrey on IR. Mike Davis was the only droppable guy, unless I wanted to drop Jonnu. So I dropped Davis, and I did not get him back off waivers. I know.
Come on, you had to see the workload first before I felt like you could make it.
The workload was there.
The workload was there because that's McCaffrey just does that. But I mean, the reports of what he was going to be like a 60-40, 70-30 split. So I mean, you wanted to see what that workload was looking like before you dropped them. Come on.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Man, I would have dropped Jonnu. I mean, I would have dropped John. I mean, I'm a huge Jonnu guy. But he got 2 targets last week, 2 targets. He got lucky last week. He got a touchdown. And he got 2 targets. I love him, but they just don't use him. He's been blocking. He's just been blocking. So, yeah. Don't get me started on Jonnu.
I would rather have like a Jimmy Graham than Jonnu as of this
really?
point. Yeah, I mean, right now, Jimmy Graham, he's good for 5 targets, 30 yards, which is right now same as Jonnu, except he has a much higher touchdown potential.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go and move on with the news here. Nick Chubb is practicing without a knee brace. That is a great sign for him, hopefully being back this week. Alshon Jeffrey was a full participant in practice for the first time all season, so it's hopefully he's going to be back. That'll be good to see. COVID news, as usual. Bunch of COVID news this week. Mecole Hardman has hit the COVID-19 list, as well as Ben Roethlisberger and 3 other Steelers, along with Vance McDonald, right?
Yes, that is correct. Mecole Hardman, he's not the biggest news because they do have a bye week this coming week, so I do expect him to be back in normal when they play the week after that. But of course, Roethlisberger, him being is the big one because I mean, the backup, I don't even Mason Rudolph. You know, he might be still recovering from that helmet to the head.
Oh, he's terrible. I'm sorry. He was bad before the helmet in the head. So.
Yeah, Myles Garrett tried to knock some sense into him, but
throw it to Juju. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, so Juju, Deontay, James Conner. Any of them worth playing this week? I'm assuming James Conner because you probably want them to run the ball more. You don't want to put the ball in Mason Rudolph's hands. Would you consider playing Juju or Deontay, Troy?
Yeah, I'd play both. And the thing is, with Deontay, he's the wide receiver 1. He gets heavily targeted. As long as he's healthy, he's definitely the alpha. Surprisingly, going into the season, we still expected Juju to do his thing. And Juju, for the most part, he's been getting more targeted. The beginning of the season was awful. He was completely forgotten about. So he's definitely been a little bit more involved. I like Deontay more than I like Juju, but I'd be willing to roll out both of them, though.
Nader, what do you think?
I think Troy is perfectly correct. It is not the
Perfectly
most
correct.
You like that? You like that? It's a good one. It might not be the most comfortable start, but sometimes you just got to go with your studs, and chances are they're your studs.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree that I would rather play Deontay over Juju, but I am okay with playing both guys if I had to.
Yes.
Raheem Mostert has been ruled out for this week. So is it JaMychal Hasty or Tevin Coleman if he's back? Jeff Wilson?
No, it's going to be Jeff McKinnon or Jerick McKinnon. Sorry.
Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah, they're going against the Saints. As much as it hurts to say, they're probably going to get demolished just as bad, or if not worse, than Tampa Bay last week. They're going to be down passing JaMychal Hasty. He's just not that pass catcher or pass blocker that Jerick McKinnon is.
What do you think, Troy?
I agree. I mean, I remember I played Hasty last week, and I was very disappointed.
I did too, man.
I did too.
I also
too.
played McKinnon, and I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, granted, I got lucky he got that touchdown late, so that's the only reason he ended up being a good play. But I agree. I believe McKinnon's a play. But, in deeper leagues, again, during this time, there's a lot of injury. There are buys. You might have to play Hasty. There's some people who are desperate and got to play him. I would prefer not to, but if you got to, I actually have to play him in one league, unfortunately, but I definitely prefer McKinnon out of the bunch.
Yeah, a better pick and better option, in my opinion, would be Travis Homer, who practiced full today. And last week, he played 69% of the snaps. And if you're a Dallas Seahawks running back, then chances are you're going to be catching a lot of passes.
That's a good sleeper. Mm-hmm. No pun intended.
There you go. I mean, he's only owned in, I think, 4% of Yahoo leagues as of right now.
Hey, DJ Dallas still getting some work, though.
He is, but, I mean, he did get injured last game and played about 31% of the snaps, so.
Yeah.
And they did, sign Bo Scarborough to their roster?
So he's not on the Lions anymore?
No, he is not. He got cut.
Okay. For some reason, I thought he was still there, but
I had no idea where he was.
Yeah, no clue.
I thought he was on the Lions too for some reason. On the practice squad or something.
Well, let's move on here. Miles Sanders is back at practice, so that is good news. Bad news, Joe Mixon did not practice coming out of the Bengals bye week, so it's not a good outlook. If for some reason Giovanni Bernard is still out there, go grab him. He's worth a start. Every single time he's the lead dog, he's got top 10 potential, and it has been that way his whole career. David Johnson missed Thursday's practice due to his concussion, looking like he will miss this week unless, something miraculous happens over the weekend. And then Kenny Golladay and TJ Hawkinson both missed practice on Thursday. Troy, would you play Marvin Jones this week?
Yeah, I feel like I played him last week and ended up working out for me. Granted, it was Minnesota, but I'll roll him out again. I just feel like I think he's better normally when Kenny Galladay's there. I feel like it's because I think he works better as a wide receiver too, even though he hasn't really produced this season. I feel like he's better in that role. However, they don't really have many options. Maybe Danny and Amendola might get involved. But I'm going to play. I actually have to play him. I actually have to play him again. So I'm cautiously optimistic that he'll be at least decent this week.
I do like Danny Amendola as a sleeper wide receiver.
I fully agree.
Before we move into not top 10, I want to talk to you guys about Pristine Auction. They have hundreds of daily auctions every single day. I guess that's what daily means, right? For all kinds of memorabilia. It's free to join and free to bid, and you only pay when you win. And right now, you can get $5 off of your first item by entering promo code SleeperWire. Visit pristineauction.com to get this deal. That's PRISTINE auction.com. All right, not top 10. What we're going to be doing here is looking at the top 10 rankings for week 10. So not for the season, but for week 10 of running backs and wide receivers, and talking about who doesn't belong in the top 10. So we're using the expert consensus rankings from Fantasy Pros. So we've got the top 10, and then I've got 5 additional running backs, 10 additional wide receivers who are right there on the cusp of being in the top 10. We're going to talk about who doesn't belong and who we think should take their place. And we're going to start with running backs here. So I'll just read them 1 through 10. We've got Dalvin Cook at number 1, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, James Robinson, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs at 6, James Conner 7, Kareem Hunt 8, Miles Sanders 9, Chase Edmonds 10. And then right after that, the next 5, we had Antonio Gibson, Mike Davis, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, and Leonard Fournette. So Troy, I'm going to kick this one to you first. Give me a guy who is ranked in the top 10 who should not be in the top 10.
I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds. And last week, he did okay. He had 25 carries and only 70 yards, which was very surprising. Everyone expected, everyone's talking about, hey, Chase Edmonds is a better back than Drake. If he gets more work, he's going to explode. He didn't do that great. Granted, Miami's defense is underrated, but I believe that Buffalo is a better running defense. So I think he's going to struggle. And also Drake has the possibility of playing. I don't know if he's going to play, but he hasn't been officially ruled out. So that obviously is going to put a monkey wrench in things. But I would say that, and then who I'll replace him with, if we're doing that now, Mike Davis. It got to be Mike Davis. Even though he's going against Tampa, the workload, I'm not expecting Curtis Samuel to take too many of his carries, but I'll definitely replace him over Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis Samuel will get 3 to 5-ish carries. Yeah. I mean, they give him some rushing work, but you can't really be concerned about him really cutting into Mike Davis's carries. Right. So you put Mike Davis in there. With the news about Nick Chubb, I would put Nick Chubb in there over Chase Edmonds. I think I'm also going to. It's hard, but I think I'm going to take James Conner out of the top 10 as well. I just think with, Mason Rudolph in there, it's going to be really, really hard for them to get anything going in the receiving game and the passing game. So teams can easily just stack up the box against James Conner. Plus, you've got that injury risk with Conner every single week. And, I don't like to factor that into rankings, but sometimes the risky players you have to. But just with the backup quarterback, who historically has been really bad, not only am I going to bump Chase Edmonds out, I'm going to bump James Conner out, and I'm going to throw Nick Chubb in there. And if Nick Chubb doesn't play, I think you can just take Antonio Gibson and move him up there as well. Nader, what do you think?
So I'm taking Kareem Hunt off this top 10 list.
Whoa.
He's been pretty good, but he hasn't been what we hoped with Nick Chubb out. And I think this is just going to be another one of those games, especially if Nick Chubb does play. If Nick Chubb doesn't play, I think that significantly drops him down the list. But you guys right now, you're knocking my boy Chase Edmonds right now. I think he's going to elevate and really produce against Buffalo's defense. I mean, you saw the Chiefs really knock it on them a couple weeks ago, Monday night, and where they just ground and pounded the ball on the Buffalo defense. I think that is the formula to beating that elite secondary. And I mean, we're saying Chase Edmonds was disappointing, but in a half-point PPR league, he put up 10.5 points with no touchdown. I feel like if he just scores a touchdown, then we're speaking of him in a different manner and saying, he really did pretty good. So I'm going to put Chase Edmonds in Kareem Hunt's spot, but I'm also going to knock Kareem Hunt off this list. And I want to put Travis Homer in the honorable mentions to close borderline in the top 10. I really think him getting a majority of the playing time is really going to set him over the edge.
That's bold.
You're not bumping him into the top 10, just close to the top 10.
I rank him higher than Antonio Gibson.
I ain't gonna do that, but that's bold of me. That's bold of me, though.
You have to think Antonio Gibson is the reason why Kyle Allen had surgery, dislocated his ankle, and he had that gruesome injury. He whiffed his pass protection, and he missed his block on Jabril Peppers, and because of that, that is the second Washington football team's quarterback that got injured off of a whiffed pass protection. First one, of course, Alex Smith. And this is Riverboat Ron we're talking about here. He doesn't settle for that. So I fully expect JD McKissic to really take on that role. And Alex Smith, being the check down manager he is just going to benefit from it.
So you're going to, if you had a choice between the two, you would play McKissic over Gibson.
Oh yeah. All day. That's bold. Antonio Gibson has 1 carry on third down all year. only 1 carry on third down.
He's been getting it done without that, though.
To be honest, though, but McKissick has been getting targeted like crazy. What, he had like 14 targets or something like that last week. So it's not too crazy if you think of it like that. All those targets, yeah.
Are you expecting Washington football team to beat Detroit? I mean, it's not a stretch, but I'm not anticipating it. So I think Antonio Gibson is starting to get factored out of this offense a little bit.
Okay, so I got a situation here then. Just the league I was recently talking about, the one where I am 9-0. So I lost Christian McCaffrey again. So I'm starting James Robinson and Antonio Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me I should drop someone to pick up J.D. McKissick and play them over Gibson?
I'm not going to tell you to do that.
I would rather start McKissick than Gibson.
Okay.
Gibson, he is touchdown dependent.
All right.
Put up fantasy points.
Okay.
I mean, if you're in a full point PPR league, I would highly recommend it. Half point PPR league, I would still rather do that. Standard league, Gibson gets the nod for me.
Okay. Anyone else here in the running backs who does not belong?
DeAndre Swift, I think, is a little bit of also a decent honorable mention. I think this just shows how decimated the running back position is, that we're talking about people in running back committees in the top 15, top 10s.
Yeah, I mean, when Leonard Fournette is the 15th ranked, it's brutal.
And you're not even sure. I mean, Ronald Jones could take the lead this week. It's a little crazy.
Or LaShawn McCoy.
Exactly.
Stop.
I know. I had to drop someone in a dynasty league. I'd been holding on to LaShawn McCoy, just hoping for something, because I didn't want to drop him because of the name, but you can't trade him because no one wants him.
Oh, no.
I finally just cut my losses.
So I do want to add one final small point. If Chris Carson does end up playing, considering he is right now labeled a game time decision, he would be elevated to top 10 to top 5 options.
Did you see that someone tweeted? It was either Twitter or Instagram. They hit up Chris Carson. They called him out. It was Instagram, and he was like,
"It was so funny.
Yeah, why don't you come out here and say that? Why don't you come make me play?"
I wonder how much hate mail, hate messages, hate DM they get on a daily.
That's just
so
like
annoying.
The worst kind of people are the ones who tweet at players because they didn't give them a win in their fantasy league. Like if you listening to this are one of the people who do that, like, go to hell.
Honestly, like I kind of agree with that, man. Because you know what it is like they're human beings. Like they don't care about our fantasy teams. Like they don't play for our fantasy teams, and for that, like the fact that people feel that entitled that they do, like, they live in a whole new world that I want to be a part of. So
yeah, I mean the players just want to get a win.
Exactly. And
then you have the players who understand how huge fantasy is. Like Keenan Allen, I think it was it last season? He had a pretty bad game and he apologized to his fantasy owners. It's like, yeah, I'll get him next week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of them. There's a couple of them that are pretty cool like that.
So I want to mention Todd Gurley because I know he is a fantasy player. Considering a couple weeks ago he did score that touchdown on the 1 yard line instead of going down, so he had the fantasy players back.
That helped me out.
So I just want to shout out Todd Gurley because I mean he knows what's up.
Yeah, and gave the Falcons the L. I mean their defense did, but still,
but it helped everybody else. Which
right.
Realistically, I mean it's kind of what matters.
Well, let's move over to wide receivers. The top 10 for wide receivers. I got a couple names on here that I don't think belong. But 1 through 10, we have Devontae Adams kicking it off. Then DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs at 3. DK Metcalf 4. Keenan Allen 5. Then it's Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Tyler Lockett, Will Fuller to round out the top 10. Honorable mentions here. Really just with wide receivers, any wide receiver can have a top 10 performance. So I went out for just looked at the next 10 on Fantasy Pros, and from 11 to 20, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, AJ Brown, Robbie Anderson, Brandon Cooks at 16, which is a little high, I think. DJ Chark, Chase Claypool, Justin Jefferson, and Deontay Johnson. Troy, I'm going to let you kick this one off here. Which of those first 10 wide receivers does not belong in the top 10?
This one was easy for me. I'll say Michael Thomas, man. You know what?
Ooh.
It gotta be Michael Thomas. Look, last week he went against Tampa. It was a tough matchup, but obviously he wasn't that impressive. This week he's going against San Francisco. They're not as great as they used to be, but I feel like they're still a tough enough matchup. And you know what? I just like so many other names better. Like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. They're going against Seattle. I will take them over Michael Thomas any day. Well, not any day, but like this week. AJ Brown. AJ Brown has a tough matchup, but I'd rather play AJ Brown than Michael Thomas. Like I can make an argument for pretty much almost anybody else that you listed. Like I might play. I don't know about Deontay Johnson. That's close, but but you know what I'm saying. Like, but you could make some kind of argument. Even though I love Michael Thomas, we can't just hold on to name value. What have you done for me lately? And this season, he hasn't done a lot. I mean, obviously he's been injured, but I'm sorry, he was an easy one for me. I definitely don't see him as a top 10 finish this week.
Nader, what are you thinking?
Tyler Lockett, number 9. He is going against the Rams, and we expect that game to be a pretty good shootout. But if he doesn't put up the monstrous games that he has, he's been absolutely mediocre, if not disappointing. I mean, in a game, if he's not scoring touchdowns, his fantasy stat line in a half-point PPR is 5, 6, 5, and 6 again. So I'm staying away from him in a top 10 perspective. The high risk, high reward factor of him makes him juicy, but top 10 wise, no. Just like Troy said, I'd much rather have a Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, AJ Brown. I'll even slide Robbie Anderson over him.
I like that pick. I'm going to go with Will Fuller. It's too boomer bust for me still. He's been that way his whole career. He has been more consistent this season, but still too boomer bust. Cleveland does have a decent defense. They're not horrible. I think I'm take Will Fuller out. I do agree with the Michael Thomas. I would keep Tyler Lockett in my top 10. I'm going to move Robert Woods into the top 10, and I want to say AJ Brown, but the Colts do have the number 1 defense. I'm going to move Adam Thielen up. I know it's Chicago, but I feel like Kirk Cousins. I got the Colts on the brain. Colts playing tonight. Kirk Cousins going to be able to find Adam Thielen a lot in Chicago. So, and actually, someone in the chat here, Gucci Smoothies, says, guys, are we pivoting from Thielen for Corey Davis tonight or Antonio Brown on Sunday? I am not going to touch Antonio Brown. But I would also never take Thielen out of my starting lineup.
Yeah. Thielen's must start. That's it. He's set to forget.
Well, I'm going to talk about Thielen a little bit later, but out of those options, I wouldn't take him out.
Yeah. And somebody also asked in the chat, is it time to drop T.Y. Hilton in Dynasty?
No.
Yes.
Dynasty?
Yeah.
Dynasty?
Yes. You just
No,
get rid of him.
stop.
He's useless now. He's trash.
A Dynasty? You don't drop anybody in Dynasty like that. No.
He passed his prime. He's a has-been now.
No.
I'm not dropping him in Dynasty.
And
And redraft, yeah. Not Dynasty.
Yeah, droppable in redraft. Also, if he's on waivers in redraft, I think he's pick-upable as well. But no, you're not dropping T.Y. Hilton in Dynasty.
What is the upside for T.Y. Hilton when he's posted up 1.5 fantasy points in like the past 3 games?
Well, he was out last week.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, so you're proving my point.
It's hard to produce fantasy points like that.
Well, I mean, before that,
He got 0 points last week. How are you going to do that?
No, before that, it was 1.9 and then 1.6 after that, and then his best game all year, it was 69 yards. I mean, nice, but I mean, that's not fantasy nice.
Yeah, still can't drop him in Dynasty though.
Nah, I'm sorry, bro. I can't get with you on that.
He's not old and over the hill yet.
But what would have to change for him to become fantasy productive? They drafted 2 receivers back-to-back years to try and replace him.
He might be on my bench, but he'll maybe help me in my weeks. I'm not giving him for free. I can't. Not T.Y.
Michael Pittman's already missed time this season. He had that calf surgery, and then Desmond Patton has been inactive every single game. Paris Campbell has been on the IR. I don't know if he's going to be back this season or not. They needed someone besides Zach Pascal to help T.Y. Hilton out.
But I mean, the ball isn't going to him. I can't imagine a time where you're comfortably putting him in your starting lineup and expecting to have fantasy points.
See, I think a lot of that is Phillip Rivers, though. He's just spreading the ball around too much. And it's only a 1-year deal. He's not going to be there with the Colts next season.
He's going to be there with the Colts next season.
I don't even know if he's going to play another season.
He does not look good. He's had like random okay games, but overall, he's not looked good.
He had 2 great weeks in a row, and then last week just looked absolutely atrocious out there.
With their winning record, they're not going to get a high draft pick to get a high quality quarterback.
They don't need one. They drafted Eason last year or this year.
Is he the answer?
He's a
no, it's not Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, it's not Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett, that's for sure.
All righty, we'll take that then.
So you can't drop T.Y. Hilton because he's having a bad year with Phillip Rivers, but he's not going to be the quarterback next year.
There is so many receivers coming out this year or next year and the week after, or the year after that I just feel so much more comfortable having on my roster.
Well, yeah, the year after that when T.Y. Hilton's 34 years old, sure.
Well, then, I mean, if you're planning on next year, then, I mean, you're going to have to account for age.
He will be, so November 12th, he will be 31 on Saturday.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday.
I just happened to look it up. I was like, T.Y., he's not even 30 yet, is he? Yep. Yeah, he'd be 31.
All right. So thank you for proving my point.
No, Jaws, it's 2 to 3. No, don't drop T.Y. Hilton. Don't.
You got to get young. You got to get young, and you gotta evolve. The game is evolving, and you got to evolve with it.
Let's move on here. Anybody else that you feel should not be in the top 10 besides T.Y. Hilton, Nader?
Well, I mean, he was never in the top 10. So Tyler Lockett not in the top 10. Terry McLaurin. He's at number 7, but Alex Smith is going to feed him the ball, so he deservedly should be in the top 10. This list is solid. It's hard to argue with too many people on here.
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm not taking anyone else out.
Well, the last time that we did this segment, Nader, was about a month ago or so, and there was really no running back we disagreed with and only one wide receiver that we disagreed with. So it's a real short segment because we were like, well, they nailed it this week.
Yeah, but were we correct? Of course we were correct. Since we changed a couple, we changed the order a little bit, and then we took like 1 or 2 people out. But for the most part, we were pretty dead on accurate.
Oh, real quick, we didn't finish talking about Joss Whedon's question. He said, if not T.Y. Hilton, his other 2 options are Duvernay and Traquan Smith to drop.
Duvernay.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, I'd rather drop Duvernay over Ty, but I mean, I'd drop both.
Not in Dynasty.
Drop both, man.
Not in Dynasty.
All right, there's your answer, Duvernay. Before we move into trade candidates, come prop up with us on Thrive Fantasy. It is a DFS app for player prop bets. For the NFL, choose 10 out of 20 player prop options to build your lineup. The riskier the pick, the more points it is worth. Earn the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Use promo code SLEEPERS when you sign up today, and you'll receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Download Thrive Fantasy from the App Store or Play Store. And when you use promo code SLEEPERS, email a screenshot of that to us at sleeperwire@gmail.com, and it'll automatically get you into a Sleeperwire Listener League for 2021. Let's move into some trade talk. Guys, as we mentioned, it is trade deadline time for probably 95% of leagues. Usually they are at week 10. So we each have 2 players that are trade targets and 2 guys that are good trade bait. And Troy, as the guest, I'm going to kick this one off to you first. Let's each talk about our trade targets to start. Who you got for us?
Sure. So my first one, we already talked about him, is Michael Thomas. Now, I was talking about him earlier. I wouldn't put him in the top 10 this week, but his schedule going forward, he plays Atlanta twice. He plays Denver. He plays KC, Minnesota, championship week. So he has a great schedule coming up. And, you know what? I believe that he needs a couple of weeks to get back. You know, he's missed most of the season with injury. So I believe it may take a couple of weeks to get back to Michael Thomas form. But also, his value is super low. In Dynasty, it's super low. And redraft is super low. And since the trade deadline is this week, I believe that you can get him at a huge discount because managers are frustrated. You haven't been able to use him. He's been worthless on your roster all season. So I believe you can get Michael Thomas at a high discount. I've already seen him move in a couple of my leagues for cheap. So I believe that he's a good trade target. I'll also go with Eric Ebron. You know what? Because Eric Ebron, people aren't talking about him, but he has actually been producing and being involved in the offense the past few weeks. And we know how tight end is. The tight end landscape is terrible. We were talking about Jonnu. Jonnu he was supposed to be a top 10 tight end when we drafted him, but he's been a disappointment. At least Eric Ebron, he's been producing the past couple of weeks. His schedule going forward, he gets Cincy, Jacksonville, Baltimore, is kind of hard. Washington, Buffalo, and Cincinnati again. He gets Indy in championship week, so that kind of sucks. But besides that, those other defenses aren't that scary against the tight end position. So again, he might be even on your waiver wire, but if someone has him, he's not going to cost you a lot. So I believe that he'll be very helpful for you going into the playoffs.
What did you see Michael Thomas go for? Because I feel like no one wants to pay full price for him. Because, I wouldn't, if I'm trading for him, I don't want to pay full price. But as someone who has Michael Thomas in a lot of leagues, I don't want small value for him. He was injured. I spent a first round pick on him. I want first or second round talent back. So it's like people aren't willing to pay that, but that's what you want because it's Michael Thomas. So what have you seen him go for?
Sure. I can't remember the actual players' names, but I know there was like an RB2 and a wide receiver 2 for Michael Thomas. It was like a young upside guy. I can't remember. I don't want to say the wrong name, but I know it was like in the caliber. Because when I looked at the trade, I remember it was either RB2 and a wide receiver 2 type for him. And also but also because, some people also were in win now mode. Michael Thomas was hurt, they needed to win. So, but those are some of the trades I saw.
So maybe something like in Antonio Gibson and Deontay Johnson or something like that.
Yeah, so around that caliber for them. Yeah.
So how about a quick example? So right now, Chris, you have Michael Thomas. If I offer you Melvin Gordon and Tyler Lockett and Melvin Gordon,
I would do it.
You would do it?
Yeah, I would.
Because I would trade Michael Thomas to get Tyler Lockett.
You would do it just straight up?
Yep. I would do it straight up.
You do it straight up. Huh?
Melvin, man, I'm just so disappointed in him because longtime listeners of the show know how much I love Melvin Gordon. He's been my favorite fantasy football player for years, and it's just so disappointing. This year.
Of course, now he has that little DUI court date for him.
Yeah, just that little dealio he's got to deal with, huh?
Rough.
Nader, who are your 2 players to trade for?
So I want John Brown. And I think the best part about John Brown is that, he's not that expensive. He was out half the year, just like Michael Thomas was. But when he has been back and healthy, he is Josh Allen's favorite target. And we saw that last year. And this year, when he is healthy, he's put up in half-point PPR leagues, 16, 17, and 14. Those are solid numbers for a guy you drafted in about the 10th round. He had a 10th round ADP, and in a person that isn't that high on him is, questioning his injury history or his health, because right now he is listed as questionable and practice limited. He might be able to part ways with him for another more solid running back or receiver.
I do love John Brown. I have him in 10 of my 15 leagues. Just a huge fan.
Oh, yeah, you're doing it right.
Yep, him being injured has been a huge bummer, but I do love me some John Brown.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And week 14, it goes against Pittsburgh, 15 Denver, and then 16 New England. He's hosted them all last year for high fantasy points, and I expect him to do it again.
And the way Josh Allen's playing.
Oh, yeah. And the team is not running the ball very well. So, they got to compensate somehow.
And I think with John Brown, you can get him so cheap too. Mm-hmm. Because it's not, first off, John Brown is probably the least sexy name just from a name sounding standpoint. And, with him being sort of banged up and, he's great a lot of the time, but then he just disappears some of the time. I feel like people don't see the upside of John Brown as much as we do. Yeah,
I think you're 100% right.
Who's your second guy?
So this guy is a deep sleeper, and it's La'Mical Pirine. And the best part of why I think you should have him is that it has been said that he is going to be the workhorse leading on. As I'm reading the quote, La'Mical Perine will be the featured back over the remainder of the season as the organization tries to determine if he could be a future RB1. So you have to go out and try to grab him, because if you are injury stricken at running backs, he could be a nice flex or plug and play RB2. And the best part is, in Yahoo leagues, he's owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues. So right now, you don't even have to trade for him. You can just pick him up for free.
Let me see if he's available in that undefeated league.
Say. You're welcome.
But you might not even need him, though, if you're undefeated.
I mean, losing CMC, though, man, you take everything you can get, right?
No, I feel you.
I mean, it's depth. You could never go wrong having RB depth. That is the one thing you could have an abundance of and still not even feel comfortable.
That's true. What do you think about that, Troy? I am not trading for La'Mical Perine.
I'm not trading for Michael Perine either. But I mean, I appreciate this sentiment. It was different. It brought, I was laser focused on it, but I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna do it. But but I'll get him in Dynasty though. If I can get him cheap in Dynasty, yeah, I'm gonna do that. If I could throw out like a third or something to get him, yeah, I'll grab him for there. But I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna start him or rely on him.
I just think this year in redraft, I'm not seeing it.
Nah,
not seeing it. So I think the biggest issue is Adam Gase.
Oh, he's definitely the issue.
Yeah, so, I mean, I could see it, but I mean, right now with how running backs are and how people are rolling out handcuffs, hoping that they just pick up yards somehow, and like I would rather start somebody like Perine than a JaMychal Hasty. But I mean, of course, Perine does have the bye week this week, so I might advise against that. But of course,
who do the Jets play? So the Jets are on a bye this week, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe come Sunday, I would just see and wait and see if Perine gets dropped or if he's out there. I wouldn't trade for him, but I would pick him up if he's there.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So I would like having him. I just don't know if I would be willing to give up a piece to get him.
Okay, I completely understand. So
I went with two wide receivers for mine. First guy is Jarvis Landry. And I was looking ahead towards the fantasy playoffs. The Browns play the Ravens in week 14. Not a great matchup, of course. But weeks 15 and 16, they're against the New York Giants and the New York Jets, right? Two Jersey teams. No Odell Beckham Jr., at least 5 targets in each of the last 5 games, including 11 targets in week 8, which was the first game without Odell Beckham Jr. Of course, they had the bye last week. Still has yet to score a touchdown in the season, but we've seen in the past his great chemistry that he's got with Baker Mayfield.
I agree. I like that one.
I think that's a pretty good one. I mean, the only issue is not trusting Baker Mayfield because, I mean, Baker Mayfield's he's a little disappointing if I could say so myself. I mean, he's going to get volume. I mean, he posts an average of over 7 targets per game. So targets typically ends up in volume, which ends up in fantasy points.
I was able to get rid of Baker in one of my dynasty leagues, which I was kind of happy about.
So after Baker's rookie year, I traded him for Josh Allen. Best decision I've ever made.
That's a good deal.
Oh man, you lucky.
I paid a lot in this trade I was just talking about, but I got Pat Mahomes and Chase Claypool. I traded Superflex. I traded Baker and Dalvin Cook. So big trade. But I got Pat Mahomes in a dynasty.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, if you get the best quarterback in Superflex, it's hard to,
Right, and Claypool's got potential.
He's there for 10 years. Right. It's hard to say no to 10 years of QB1.
I actually just traded Kyler Murray straight up for Mahomes.
That's a good deal. I think that's a good deal.
That's even. I feel like it's super. It's pretty even. Also,
it's kind of a wash.
It's even.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather have Kyler Murray. I mean, the rushing yards is so nice.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, for a Superflex dynasty, I'm like, I love it, but I'm like, it's hard to say I'd rather have him over Mahomes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what? That's 100% true.
Just rushing quarterbacks tend to have a shorter shelf life, so Mahomes might be great longer than Kyler.
I mean, how long have we seen a mobile quarterback last in this era of football? I mean, technically what Colin Kaepernick has had the longest career.
Well,
I mean, not really.
I mean, I think that just goes to show like how short mobile quarterback's career has been lately.
But
Well, I
here's
mean,
the
like
thing.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton would probably be the longest one so far.
But Murray, he's different to me than Lamar because of the way he runs. He runs smart. Like he doesn't take a lot of big hits.
Doesn't.
He doesn't. He's quick. He either goes out of bounds, slides, but but he's so fast. He gains so many yards and then either slides or goes out of bounds. But I watch him. He rarely takes big hits. So it was hard doing that trade, but I like Pat Mahomes, obviously. So
it's not just that he doesn't want to take the hit. He's also like 5'10".
He's
So he'll get crushed if he gets hit by a linebacker.
Right. Exactly.
Lamar Jackson can handle it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Well, Lamar has been, I don't want to say disappointing, but he's definitely regressed. And I mean, right now the reports are that defenses are calling out the plays at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't adapt, then Lamar Jackson's career might be over pretty soon.
I think he'll figure it out.
Not over. Get out
Hot
of here.
take Nader tonight, man.
He tripping, man. Not over.
I mean, Colin Kaepernick was looking like an MVP type caliber player. Defenses figured it out. I mean, this is a Greg Roman. He was the offensive coordinator for Colin Kaepernick. Now transferred to Lamar. If no team could, if he can't figure it out or readjust that offense to the defenses, then
they'll figure it out.
History repeats itself.
They'll get it figured out for sure. Lamar's going to be great for years.
Oh.
My second player, though, Devontae Parker. Preston Williams was just placed on IR. He's only had 12 catches over the last 4 weeks. Sounds bad, but week 8 was his first game, or was the first game started by Tua. So I think we can let that one catch for 3 yards go. But it was for a touchdown, so he did get that, inside the 5 look from Tua. Last week in a shootout with Arizona, 6 for 64 on 7 targets, and he basically has dream matchups the rest of the way. Chargers, Broncos, Jets, Bengals, Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, Bills. So looking good for basically 8 straight weeks to your fantasy playoffs for Devontae Parker.
I mean, with Devontae, I'm never worried about the cornerback matchup because during Stephon Gilmore's last year Defensive Player of the Year, Devontae embarrassed him and is the sole reason why the Patriots did not get home field advantage. I'm not worried about any type of matchup. He is a set start and forget type player.
Now, Troy, do you want to add anything to Devontae Parker? Because as soon as you saw him in the show notes that I put there, you were like, he was my guy. So I'm assuming you have something else you want to add to it.
Not too much. Granted, I'm a Dolphins fan. So
okay.
I'm a Dolphins fan, so that makes Devontae Parker, man. Obviously he was very disappointing last year. He bursted on the scene. This year, it's not all his fault that he hasn't been. He's been pretty decent, like you said. He's been underrated, but I feel like he has been pretty consistent. I feel like going forward, like you mentioned, Preston Williams on IR, they're gonna need him, and Tua's going to rely on him, and that schedule definitely is very favorable. So I'm excited about him.
And Preston Williams hitting the IR last year is exactly why Devontae Parker exploded.
Exactly.
So, and I think you can get him still real cheap. I think people are going to look at the last 4 weeks and say, okay, well, he didn't do anything really, but I think you're going to be able to get him on the cheaper side. I'm not saying I would trade Michael Thomas to get Devontae Parker. I'd rather have Thomas, but you can probably scrape 2 of your bench pieces together for Devontae Parker.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very fair.
Well, now let's talk about guys we want to trade away, and we'll move a little bit quicker here. We don't need to spend as much time talking about these guys, or we don't need to break them down. Just running out of time here a little bit. But Troy, why don't you give us your first guy?
My first guy is actually all the Bucs wide receivers. Mike Evans, Godwin's, Antonio Brown. I'm sorry, if you can get rid of them because the target share for each of them is so low, especially Mike Evans. Like, I'm sorry, especially for this year, I don't want any of them. They're not reliable. You don't know who's gonna be the favorite. You're hoping for a touchdown. I was saying on our show, Fantasy Football Confidential, yesterday, how Mike Evans is pretty much a streaming tight end at this point in terms of he's getting a couple targets and you're hoping for a touchdown. Unfortunately, that's what he's regressed to. Mike Evans, unfortunately, if you look at his target share, that's what he is now. He's just a goal line option. So that's for the Bucks. Adam Thielen's my second choice. I know that's gonna hurt you, Chris, but he's been getting very low target share. In his schedule coming up, he gets Chicago, Tampa, and New Orleans in the fantasy playoffs. No, thank you. It's a Dalvin Cook show. I'm not interested in that. And Thielen. I mean, again, if you have him, you're going to play him, but my expectations are much, much lower.
Yeah, and I think with Thielen, I'm still going to play him as probably my wide receiver 1 every single week, but he's that kind of guy that you still can get the same return for him that you paid. You paid a second or third round pick for him, most likely. You can get that back for Adam Thielen. He's been that good this season for the most part that you can still get really good value for him. What do you think, Nader?
Adam Thielen is the best receiver on the Vikings, and he's been one of the best receivers for the past few years. I'd have a difficult time giving him away because I'm afraid I'm never going to get the value that I think he deserves. So, I mean, he is going to be your wide receiver 1 regardless of roster.
What about your 2 players to trade away?
Oh boy. My first one might make you guys a little upset. It's Antonio Gibson. His liability in pass protection is going to be the downfall.
He missed one block.
Well, his one block costed somebody potentially his whole career. Right now he has the Alex Smith type recovery to go through. So, and it's not like Kyle Allen was a superstar quarterback. So he might not get the chances that he once had. So, if you think about it, it is always said, if you cannot pass protect, you cannot play football. Saquon Barkley, he lost his third down role because he could not pass protect, and he got resorted to a 2-down back, hence why we saw his production dramatically decrease. And now Antonio Gibson is going to see that same production decrease. Right now, like we talked about it earlier, McKissick is seeing a lot of volume. He's seeing a lot of targets, and that's because not only can he pass block, but he can pass catch. And he did have 3 carries last game, and I expect that to expand.
What about your second guy?
My second guy is going to be Stefon Diggs. He's had it too good for too long, and that was without John Brown. And with John Brown being there, I'm going to see a regression of targets, yards, and volume, making it so you might as well go ahead and get as much value as you can as possible. He's
been great every week, though, hadn't he?
He has been great, but you're starting to see John Brown creeping in a little bit and a little bit more. Stefon Diggs is a great wide receiver, but maybe you can get more than what you're getting.
His worst game was 6 for 48, and that's still double-digit fantasy points.
Yes, that is. But John Brown, I am a believer in John Brown more than I am a believer in Stefon Diggs.
He's got 400-yard games on this season.
Yes, which is why I know you can get a lot for him.
I'm with Diggs, man. I'm sorry.
That's why I'm saying I'm not trading him.
I'm not trading him either.
But you also have to look at the schedule a little bit. He has a little bit of a rougher end of season schedule.
But you were just talking about John Brown.
That's because I'm a believer in John Brown. I think he could be and is matchup proof because unfortunately, in fantasy, we're trading away Stefon Diggs. He's still on the Bills roster. That means he is taking the best corner on the team and the most attention on the team, leaving John Brown with the better matchup than Stefon Diggs would. So, while Stefon Diggs might be the better receiver, but he's getting more focus on the defensive side, leaving John Brown more open.
You can also make the argument that John Brown was out, so definitely Stefon Diggs was getting more focus and was still putting up great numbers.
Yes, you would be 100% correct, but that's why I think I would trade Stefon Diggs now while I can get as much value for him as possible. If I could trade Stefon Diggs for a Josh Jacobs, James Conner, or a AJ Brown, for a Keenan Allen, for a Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders, somebody in that range, I'd go ahead and take it.
Okay. Well, speaking of Josh Jacobs, let's make that trade right now because my guy to trade away is Josh Jacobs, and I would trade him to get Stephon Diggs if I needed a wide receiver. For Jacobs, just the targets haven't been there. We thought we were going to see this rise in, running back targets for Jacobs. The fantasy points haven't been there most of the weeks. You can still get great value for him based on off of his name, where he was drafted, and the fact that he's had a few great performances this season. And I'm saying this as a guy who loves Josh Jacobs. I've been having a bunch of leagues. If you have good running back depth, I'd be willing to trade him for high upside wide receiver like Stephon Diggs or Terry McLaurin, like I have here in the show notes. Robert Woods, maybe not Robert Woods, but McLaurin or Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I'd trade you Josh Jacobs for Stephon Diggs. You want to make that trade right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes. So I do. I'm gonna piggyback on you for why you'd sell it and say that Josh Jacobs has only posted a 100-yard game once this year, and that was against the Browns, where they had 30 mile per hour winds, and he rushed at 31 times. So I mean, I do see where you're coming from, but he is the workhorse back, and he's going to get those goal line touches.
And my second guy, we talked about him already too, Chase Edmonds. That high-scoring affair with the Dolphins last week, 25 carries, 25 rushing attempts, and only 75 yards, less than 3 yards per carry. He does have a history of good and great performances. Kenyon Drake may be coming back this week. He was limited in practice on Thursday, but he is kind of on the hot seat. He's been pretty disappointing, especially for people who, spent that middle of the first round draft pick on Kenyon Drake, which was ridiculous, and why I have 0 shares of him this year. I think you can get good return for Chase Edmonds if you trade him now before any more news on Kenyon Drake breaks. The Cardinals play the Giants in week 14. That's a good matchup to start the fantasy playoffs, but they play the Eagles and the 49ers in weeks 15 and 16, so semifinals and finals, and those are tough matchups for a running back. So I would look to try to trade Chase Edmonds before the deadline.
So, Troy, who would you trade away for Chase Edmonds?
Who would I trade away for? Mm-hmm. I mean, I believe that, I guess, how are we seeing him? I guess a high-end RB2. So I would want something like that in return. So let me see. I got to look at the list. But I would say I would do like Chase Edmonds. Like, I'd rather have Antonio Gibson personally than Chase Edmonds.
Do that.
I would do that.
Are you guys seeing as Chase Edmonds as going to be the year on back for the Cardinals, or are you guys anticipating him as just being another 1 week rental?
If Drake's back, then I think they're going to split time. So I think it's going to hurt his ceiling whenever he comes back.
Yep. Running back by committee. No guy is going to be on either one of my teams or any of my teams.
All righty. That is fair.
All right. Well, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for this week's show. I don't think we have anything else to talk about. Troy, man, thank you so much for coming on, dude. This was fun.
No, man. Again, I had a blast, guys. Great meeting you. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a great time now. I'm ready for some Thursday night football. Let's get it, guys.
Colts by 30. Calling it.
Colts by 30, yeah. Colts by 30, man.
As long as A.J. Brown gets like 4 touchdowns, score doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'll give the Titans 14 points. Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown get a touchdown.
You know what? I call it a successful game.
Troy, why don't you tell everybody where they can follow you and support you?
Of course, you guys can follow me at TKingMode on Twitter. I'm also there on Instagram. And also, I'm a writer for Ball Blast Football, so you can check out my articles there. And I'm also one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. We air on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're a mix of everything, Redraft Dynasty. We put a little different flavor to it. But yeah, check us out, and I appreciate everyone's support.
Nader, what about you? Where can people find you?
Of course, on Twitter at Top Tier Tactics _ or on Instagram at TTT Fantasy Football. Or you guys can check out the YouTube channel at Top Tier Tactics Fantasy Football. And of course, on any type of podcasting platform at Top Tier Tactics, where you guys can listen to me and my co-hosts consistently insult each other on a daily basis.
And you can follow Sleeper Wire on Twitter at Sleeper Wire Show. I am on there at Prof_Chris SW, and you can hit me up on the Sleeper app at Professor Chris. Troy, Nader, thanks for joining me this week. This was a lot of fun. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you guys next week.
Good luck, everybody.
How's it going, y'all?